Before the steam engine, before transcontinental railways, even before humanity understood what bacteria were, we already possessed a technology that allowed us to travel farther than any other species on Earth. The ability to carry time with us. The fundamental problem our ancestors faced was never merely geographical. It was biological. Fresh meat decays within days at ambient temperatures. Protein, the densest fuel for the brain and muscles, is an inherently unstable structure. The moment life ends, enzymes and bacteria begin severing peptide bonds, releasing amines, degrading tissue. An expedition may have a compass, a map, and courage, but without a way to stabilize food. It would not survive more than 3 sunsets. And so, with smoke and salt, humanity performed a radical act. It altered the relationship between biology and time. For most of evolutionary history, humans were bound by what we might call a biological anchor. Fresh meat tethered communities to hunting grounds and pastures. Dependence on perishable protein forced early settlements to cluster near water sources, grasslands, and game. From an ancient logistics perspective, the challenge was not simply carrying food, but carrying high energy density without carrying decay. Meat contains roughly 250 kilocalories per 100 grams, primarily from protein and lipids, yet that nutrient-rich structure is precisely what makes it an ideal substrate for microorganisms. Without preservation, proteins are hydrolyzed by proteases. Lipids oxidize into aldehydes that generate rancid odors. Bacteria proliferate and release toxins. In other words, high energy means high risk. Ancient civilizations recognized this early. The Romans developed garum, a fermented fish sauce, to store protein in a chemically stable form. Roman legions marched thousands of kilometers, fueled by salted meat and dried fish. Empires were not built solely on steel and strategy, but on transportable calories. Before refrigeration systems existed, the ability to delay decomposition formed the backbone of geopolitical power. Without preservation technology, an empire would be constrained by the biological radius of fresh food. If preservation was the necessary condition, climate was the protocol designer. In the cold, humid climates of northern Europe, smoking became the dominant method. Smoke contains phenols and naturally occurring formaldehyde compounds with antimicrobial properties. When deposited onto the surface of meat, they denature bacterial proteins and create a protective, desiccated layer. Meanwhile, in the sun-drenched Mediterranean, salt and dry air were harnessed to produce cured meats. Reducing water activity below 0.85 prevents most bacteria from proliferating. In humid parts of Asia, people combined salt, sugar, and fermentation, giving rise to sausages and related preserved foods. Flavor, therefore, is not merely culture. It is the byproduct of climate and microbiology. A slice of Spanish jamón or a length of German sausage is not merely tradition. It is a technical solution optimized by geography. Climate forced humans to innovate, and from that innovation, culinary identity was born. The 19th century Industrial Revolution fundamentally transformed the nature of processed meat. Before that, preservation was a domestic art. Each region developed its own salt ratios, drying times, and smoking techniques. But as urban populations surged, the objective shifted from surviving the winter to feeding millions of people every day. Canning technology emerged in the early 19th century, built on the principle of heat sterilization and environmental sealing. Nicolas Appert, a pioneer in this field, discovered that heating food in sealed containers prevented spoilage. Later, Louis Pasteur clarified the mechanism heat denatures bacterial proteins and deactivates enzymes. From that point forward, preservation was no longer an art. It became a repeatable, standardized process. Yet, with predictability came the loss of individuality. Processed meat shifted from a symbol of survival to a symbol of industry. And when food became a mass-produced commodity, trust began to waver. Modern skepticism does not arise from the chemical nature of processed meat itself, but from its separation from its original cultural context. Not all interventions are the same. Slicing a steak changes its mechanical shape, making sausage restructures proteins. Alters pH, controls water activity, and manages microbial ecosystems. The difference lies in intention. One prioritizes convenience, the other transforms our relationship with time. Processed meat is, in essence, a technology for regulating entropy. It does not stop decomposition, it slows its rate. This is similar to how we compress data. A large file is compressed not to erase information, but to store and transport it more efficiently. Salted meat is protein compressed into a biologically stable format. Today, aboard the International Space Station ISS, food still relies on the same fundamental principles: reducing water content, controlling microbial growth, and extending shelf life. From sailors crossing the Atlantic to astronauts orbiting Earth, the core technology remains unchanged. Smoke and salt, in essence, are pre-industrial versions of space technology. Every slice of salami or strip of bacon you eat is a cultural fossil. It carries within it traces of climate, T&W, war, trade, and science. Processed meat is not the degradation of natural food. It is evidence of human ambition, a refusal to let biology dictate our limits. We did not merely hunt. We learned how to store. We did not merely eat. We learned how to transport time. Without that 5,000-year-old technology, there would have been no transoceanic expeditions, no armies marching across deserts, no trade routes stretching thousands of kilometers.